mountain settlements of elegant marble buildings, today its remains rival those of Pompeii. Jesse Karp now joins archaeologist Leah Long at a quarry a mile and a half away from the city. He is uncovering the secret of how Aphrodisias became known as the most beautiful city in the Roman Empire.
So we're looking at one of the largest quarries that the Aphrodisians would have used to supply their city with marble.
It's huge. How much rock might they have taken from a site like this?
We think they would have taken about 10,000 cubic feet from here.
Okay, that's a lot of rock.
It is a lot of rock, and it probably would have supplied several of the monumental buildings in the city center.
Still visible is ancient evidence of the techniques used to quarry the marble nearly 2,000 years ago.
You take a look here. This is one of the blocks that fell off from the quarry face.
Okay, I can see some marks there and a hole. What's the middle hole there for?
The hole was used for shoring off the block. They used dry wooden wedges wrapped in cloth, and they would have driven the wedges into the holes, wet them, and as the wedge dried, exactly, and the rock would have cracked off.
The faint outline of the road used to move the marble is still etched into the landscape.
So we're walking along the ancient footway that was used to transport the marble to the city center.
Okay, and how would they have done that? Would they have cars and oxen?
Yeah, exactly. Animals would have pulled them downhill. And that's actually the unique thing about the Aphrodisias marble quarries is that it's only a mile and a half away, whereas at Rome, it was 10 times that amount.
This was the secret of Aphrodisias' beauty. It was surrounded by half a dozen of these marble quarries, each within easy reach. No other city in the empire had such a natural abundance of Rome's favorite stone. Not even the city of Rome itself, where fabulous buildings like the Pantheon had to be part built with concrete. Jesse now joins archaeologist Peter D. Stabler at the single largest marble structure in the city.
When was this stadium built?
They're at a venue that would have easily exhausted the entire supply of at least one of the local quarries, the enormous marble stadium.
So how well preserved is the stadium? This is one of the best preserved and even largest of all ancient stadia. This is a huge complex. Any idea how much stone would have been used to build something like this? Well, the stadium is about 900 feet long and 250 feet wide, and we estimate that it took about 200,000 cubic feet of stone.
From the stadium's highest tier, it's possible to get a sense of this vast amount of stone, as well as the stadium's unique design and shape.
Well, the long and narrow aspects are very Greek. All Greek stadia are long and narrow. And the Roman arenas are oval. And this building is a combination of a Greek stadium and an oval Roman arena. So what makes this such an unusual stadium? Well, it's unusual in that it has two curved ends, and also that the straight sides aren't straight, but bow out a little bit. So what that allows is everyone sitting on the long sides, that they have a good view of the entire length of the track.
Using the basic measure of 400 paces to determine the length of a Greek stadium and the circular layout of a Roman arena, the Aphrodisian builders created a hybrid, an elongated stadium with rounded ends that fused the best of Roman and Greek architecture. The reason behind this blend of shapes was so that the stadium could accommodate not just Roman blood sports, but traditional Greek athletics.
Well, this stadium was used for two different kinds of performances. One was Greek-style athletic games, like Olympic-style athletic games, so foot races and javelin and discus. And the other kind of games were Roman-style blood sports of gladiatorial games and wild animal hunts and public executions.
Of the two types of games held here, athletics was by far the oldest. The ancient Greeks held the first Olympic Games in the 8th century BC. Here in Aphrodisias, the local games were called the Aphrodisia, and popular local sports were running, wrestling, discus, javelin throwing, and chariot racing. Just like today, particular groups of fans had reserved seating, but restrictions also applied, especially to women during the athletics.
Many of these seats had inscriptions carved on them, indicating that these seats were reserved for particular groups, either guilds including the sacred gardeners or wealthy families or visitors from out of town. Interestingly, some of these inscriptions had the names of women on them. Women were not permitted to watch the athletic events because the men performed them in the nude, but they were allowed in for the gladiatorial combats and the crucifixion.
Blood sports were the other reason for building this stadium. At nearly 900 feet long and with 30 tiers of seating, it could hold 30,000 people, twice as many as lived in the city itself. During major festivals, the games could go on all day for several days in a row. Not surprisingly, people found ways to entertain themselves between events.
So what we have here is a game board that someone carved on the top of a marble seat some 1,600 years ago. And when they had a moment of boredom in between the matches, for instance, after the beheadings and before the lions came out to tear people to shreds, you could sit here with your buddy and play a game.
The stadium was a spectacular achievement, but its size and scale was rivaled by Zoilus' final construction project in the city. At around 25 BC, he began the rebuilding of the town square, or agora, a massive undertaking, at the heart of which he would leave his indelible mark on the city. Eleanor Herman and chief archaeologist Chris Rotte now investigate the agora.
So this is the agora, the ancient marketplace and the beating heart of Aphrodisias.
Yes, the ancient Greek word agora means both the crowd and the place where the crowd assembles. And that's exactly what the agora was. It was the city's principal civic and commercial square. There would have been shops and the porticos around the agora. This is where public meetings were held, and presumably on market days, people from around the countryside would come into the city here and set up their stalls and sell their produce and their special wares.
So this was almost like a shopping mall where people could come here and pretty much buy whatever they wanted.
That's right. 660 feet long by 230 feet wide, the completed agora was a spectacular town square to rival anything in the Roman Empire. It was surrounded by a beautiful covered colonnade called a stoa. Covered walkways like this extended out from the agora, linking it with the temple of Aphrodite, so that a citizen could walk from virtually one side of the city center to the other without stepping into the hot sun or pouring rain. Archaeological clues suggest it was here that Zoilus had his tomb.
The sanctuary of Aphrodite was the religious heart of the city. This is its civic center. The agora was mainly an open space, but there were some public monuments scattered around the center of the agora, and in the very center is a square masonry platform, which is just the right size, more or less, for the tomb of Zoilos. The agora is a traditional place for the tombs of city founders.
I didn't know that. I thought that all ancient cities buried their dead outside the city.
Correct. The Greeks maintained a very strict distinction between the city of the living, the polis, and the city of the dead, the necropolis outside of town. But exceptions were made for especially prominent people. They could be buried perhaps in the place of highest honor, the agora.
And 2,000 years ago, this is where Zoilus' mausoleum probably stood. An unmistakable edifice commemorating the achievements of the man who had transformed his home city from a humble Greek town into a fully fledged Roman city, honored by emperors. But there was one group of Aphrodisians who were eager to lessen Zoilus' legacy as soon as they could.
Zoilus brought a great deal of wealth to this city, and I think there must have been a certain amount of respect and gratitude for what he did. I also think that there was probably a great deal of jealousy, because here comes this former slave, the lowest type of person you could be, into the city, plastering his name all over everything, and I imagine that the powerful aristocratic families were extremely jealous of him.
Zoilus died sometime around 20 BC. Long deprived of power by a freed slave, the local aristocrats moved swiftly to reclaim the authority they saw as their birthright. To help ease this regime change, they needed to prove their devotion to Octavian. now known as Augustus, Rome's first emperor. They chose to do it by conceiving the most audacious building ever constructed in Aphrodisias, a puzzle which continues to perplex even today.
The men that we've married have great gifts. Does their dad want you to be Attorney General?
I can hardly survive a day without hearing his opinion on my life.
And great flaws.
You really think everyone can be bought?
I haven't met the exception.
Why, you have now.
But they're the men we've chosen.
My intention is to have you fight the battles and I'll set the policy. Does that work for you? Yes, sir. Good. The Kennedys. Coming April 10th to History Television.
Confidence. Available in color. Depend colors for women. Looks and fits like underwear. Same great protection. Depend. Good morning, great day.
Lifestyles and eating habits often change as we age. An occasional meal replacement can help supplement balanced nutrition. Doctors may recommend Boost as part of a healthy diet. It provides the complete nutrition your body needs. One serving of Boost contains 10 grams of protein, plus 24 essential vitamins and minerals, like calcium and vitamin D, to help keep bones strong. Getting complete nutrition helps you enjoy life to the fullest. Find Boost in the nutrition aisle of your pharmacy. This has been Many Facts for Boost.
Last year, Smirnoff brought India to Canada. To find the next event near you, go to facebook.com/Smirnoff Canada. The Smirnoff Nightlife Exchange Project. Be there.
In the Roman city of Aphrodisias, our investigators are exploring the remarkable legacy of the freed slave turned elder statesman, Gaius Julius Zoilus. They've already uncovered what the magnificent temple of Aphrodite looked like when Zoilus rebuilt it in the middle of the 1st century BC. And they've seen the extravagant stage he added to the theater, as well as the sprawling agora, or marketplace, where he built his personal mausoleum. Now, they're turning their attention to the majestic building constructed in the wake of his death. Called the Sebastian, this was the city's imperial temple, dedicated to Octavian and the early Caesars. Jesse now teams up with reconstruction expert Gerhard Paul. He faces a daunting challenge: to rebuild a section of what was once the city's most spectacular building.
These blocks are everywhere. It's like some sort of giant jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, we have more than 3,500 of these blocks.
And is that enough to do the reconstruction?
It's enough because it's more than 70% of the whole building, and this is necessary for doing this kind of work.
So you have all these blocks that are scattered about. How do you know which ones fit together and where they go?
We have a lot of different marks and holes and decoration. And at the end we find out the original position of this stone.
Many of these stones are from the Sebastian's three-tiered entrance, through which lay its most important feature, a processional way nearly 300 feet long by 50 feet wide.
So what part of the Sebastian are we walking through now?
We are now walking through the courtyard of this building. The entrance was on the back side here.
Okay.
And on the other side we have the center. And left and right of us are the three-story porticos. We are reconstructing this corner and all 3 stories, full height.
How long will that take?
It will take about 4 or 5 years more.
And you've been working how long?
We are working since 4 or 5 years. So long project, about 10 years. Yeah.
Gerhard shows Jesse the traditional techniques that he's using to reconstruct the temple.
Yeah, here for example you can see the clamp hole.
Through here?
Yeah. So there's a clamp which goes into these 2 pieces, and you can see how they fit.
So this was the original construction, right here.
This was the original construction, yeah.
What do we have over here? These don't look like originals. They look more like concrete.
So these are molds.
Okay.
First we use molds to try it on top of this building. The originals are over there. We try to find their position over there, and when we are sure that this piece goes on this place, then we change it.
There's a gap here. Will this be filled in?
This gap will stay open. We only use copies if it's really necessary for the construction.
And this is what a visitor would have seen nearly 2,000 years ago when the Sebastian